Okay, so this is being edited. That's awesome.
Yes.
I told you I don't edit my shit. I
Oh
literally just
no.
throw it up
I love
there.
it. Fuck it. We're going live. That's very much the energy of someone that is Scorpio rising to begin with. Where you're very ruled by Mars, Pluto, like transformation, the quickness, like the swiftness that you guys have. Anytime that an Aries sun pairs up with a Sagittarius sun, chaos ensues. There's nothing else. I looked at
I love it.
Yeah, the chart of right now is beautiful for this. It's very Jupiterian, which you are Jupiter in the first house as well as Pluto. So people are obsessed with Mariah. If I haven't already introduced Mariah, here she is. I am so sorry I didn't even say your name over here.
We're having fun.
Most professional podcast over here.
I love it.
But yes, so you have been crusading in this Gnostic space
Oh my god.
for a minute now. What has been your like timeline with your journey and wisdom and all things Gaia and Mother Earth?
Okay, I love that question. And it's been I definitely went deeper into it during the pandemic, and I think that that was an opportunity for a lot of people to do that. And we just because everything stopped, whether you agree with what happened or not, and how the government went about things really did stop. And there wasn't a lot of spending time with too many people, and I think that gave a lot of people, especially me, the chance to kind of like just surround myself with myself and really find out, like, because you kind of face the mirror. And that's when I had a lot of stuff come up, and I've dealt with a lot of issues with my body and accepting myself. I've had disordered eating before, and this was something that came up, and it just reared its ugly head during that time. And I remember that was kind of like the crux of how I really dived into my relationship with Gaia Sophia. Now I've had a relationship with Gaia. Um, I mean, we all do, and we just don't know it, right? We breathe her in every single instance. And my the spin that I like to take on it is that she's really interactive, and she does become alive in your life, and that's how I know her and how I talk to her and talk about her as Gaia Sophia. And um, during the pandemic, I had that kind of that body thing where I was like, I just kept hearing the message in my head that was, you need to love your body. You need to love what you're in as an instrument of who you are. Otherwise, you're just not going to take it to the next. You're not going to break through if you're fighting what you're in. And I remember, like, that was literally a huge turning point for me, where I just started to say, I love my body as it is, I appreciate it as it is. And suddenly after that, it was like my brain shifted. I started to receive Sophia, and I read the Sophia Code, which is great. It doesn't I find, like, I really love that book, but I don't find it talks too much about Sophia. But it was like an attunement to her. And then I found John Lamb Lash's work, which has been instrumental in everything. He really, pioneered the retelling of the Nag Hammadi codices, and the journey of Sophia, and where she is now and how she is Gaia Sophia. But it really was that time during the pandemic where I just had to be like, oh, you know what? Like, thank you to my body. I appreciate my body. And then I started having crazy dreams. I had this one dream. I'll never forget it. I was like this big bubble, and I was like a big bubble smile, and I was with Sophia, and she was like a big bubble smile, and we were just like rolling around and like laughing and giggling like little babies.
Yes.
Then what is so crazy is that I was reading through some of John Lamb Lash's work, and I don't know if it was a YouTube video or it was somewhere in his book, and he talked about Sophianic baby talk as being a real thing, and it is how Sophia kind of connects with our neural pathways and starts using like tones, and it sounds like baby talk, like goo goo gaga, but it's rewiring our brain with like vowels and sounds and stuff like that. And so when I read that after my dream, I was like, wait, she was really attuning me in my head. And that happens. I've had people on Twitter all the time where they'll say, I've had a dream about Sophia, or I've had, I knew that Sophia was my guide, and it never really clicked until, I heard her name or whatever. So she really, that's what I love about her, is that I don't really need to tell every person that you have to have a relationship with her. I just have to talk about her and who she is and where she is. And then, like, she just does the work. You know what I mean?
And she just lives through you so well. Like on Twitter, which is where I found you, of course, is
Yeah.
just such a beautiful place to share. And then some people are like, it's a hellscape, it's terrible. And you have made it your own little world. And that's what we're supposed to do. Because there's not always beauty in everything. Initially, you have to see it, right?
Yeah, because people can be crazy on there, and I love Twitter because I love people, and
Yeah.
I love connecting with people, and I find that Twitter is, I think, the best way to really connect with anybody. You could connect with, I mean, you had a tweet go viral that you didn't even
Yes.
plan, right? You know what I mean? Like, you can literally say something and somebody can see it. You can go viral. You can interact with the person that you're talking about if you're going to talk about celebrities. That and there's that, it's like a level playing field, kind of. You can tweet, and people can see it, and that's what I really love. But there's a lot of people that tweet and they think that other people aren't looking. Right? And you know what? And sometimes I do that too, and I'm just like talking shit or whatever. And I talk a lot of shit about typical Christianity, and I don't nearly get as much hate for it as I thought I would, because I really do. I do talk some shit,
I
but
love it.
I don't, yeah, because it's really, I mean, it goes back to the whole Gnostic story, is that in my belief, there's a lot of people that are really paying attention to the wrong authority figure, right? And then I'll call that out on Twitter. And then for the most part, I usually just get people being like, oh, you know what? I've never thought about it that way. And then it, in turn, they seek out the nag hammadi codices, or they, have dreams, or they sit down by a tree. That's literally what I tell people all the time. Like, go sit in front of a tree, just relax, allow Guy to talk to you. And then, you know, from there, their blood pressure calms down, and then, we can have a peaceful discussion.
Man, you must have been in my head as I was getting ready for this conversation because all I could think about was wanting to reframe so much of my relationship with the internet and how we find that information because that to me is that like snake coming down from the tree this day and age saying, "Hey, you want to see some weird shit? Get on the internet." And we all just grew up with the option to see like terrible things. Like I remember in high school, a kid got suspended for watching a beheading in the library at school. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, this is normal. But like in the early 2000s, that was normal. Today's internet is still a very like grotesque place, but that's kind of the beauty of this world that we live in is the balance. There's always going to be darkness and layers to things. It's what you choose to focus on and what you really put your energy in toward. And I really feel the more that you talk about your dreams and the dream state that is kind of the relationship, people don't really understand that your dreams do symbolize a lot. And I've been talking in astrology world about dreams a lot and what you do action wise replicates your dreams essentially. And so your actions in everyday life is what kind of like shapes the foundation of your dreams. And if you're needing a message, you can ask for messages and it pops up. If you're needing guidance, if you're needing clarity, and it says that in the Bible. And so it's like all the dream work and all the things, like all these Christians that walk around thinking that they're not just secretly doing magic, like archaic magic, like bro, wake up.
Yeah.
But I was also raised in the church, and I have some relatives that are like, I was outed by that viral astrology tweet to a lot of people that in my family, I feel like wouldn't necessarily agree that astrology is a real profession. And I'm like, good news, I also work in oil. Do you think that doesn't exist too? Just because you can see it? Like, grow up, you know? And it's fun to watch people's face transform when you talk about like what you do in your free time. I feel like what has been your experience with like sharing your hobbies of sitting under trees and talking to nature?
Honestly, I always anticipate and I think that there's going to be a negative reaction, but so far there hasn't been too much of it, which is really lovely for me because I'm kind of ready to defend what I do all the time. Like if somebody were to be like, well, what does that do that doesn't actually do anything? I would be like, well, you know what? Actually, it does scientifically reduce your blood pressure. We do benefit from this in a health way. But for the most part, I just get people interested in it. And I've had, I used to, when we first got back, well, second time we got back from Mexico, I worked in a restaurant as a waitress. And I didn't really talk about, that I do Reiki or meditations or stuff like that. And then suddenly I was just like, I'm holding an event. I'm doing a sound healing meditation and please come if you want to. I put up posters around where I worked and like I had a great turnout twice, from people where I never even talked about it. And it was like they they just really wanted it. As soon as I started to talk about it, they were like, "Yes, please. I've always wanted to get into meditation, and I would love to do it with you." And and even I think I told you this before. My What I really love to do is the shamanic journeys with people, but I also have that fear that it's just not going to be received or that people are going to think that it's crazy. But like I said, you did one with me. I've had people just randomly be like, "Oh, I really would like to do this with you," even though I have no idea what it is. And I'm like, "Okay, great, let's
I
go."
I loved the experience that I had with you to the point where I'm pretty sure I was like, this is my sign that like I need to work with Mariah in some way. I don't know what it is, you're in your world that I feel like is just like very ethereal, very beautiful and very poetic. And then you're also present in your real life. Like we all have our what do people that like to spiritually bypass call it our 3D life? Like
Oh yeah.
I don't believe in like labeling things a lot. Like I just try to exist in whatever. So it's hard for me to like separate things. I've had to ask so many questions. Like I'm naturally curious and I'm not shutting down anything existing. I'm simply asking a lot of things like why do we need to call these different realms if they're all existing at once? Like everything in time with quantum physics that I understand is everything that has already happened is happening all at once, and it's just this nonstop continuous loop. And we're talking about the Ouroboros of things, we're talking about all sorts of the Gnostic approach, and the Nag Hammadi was a very big breakthrough with spring and with all the people that are looking for a fresh start. I feel like shamanic journeys would be the best way to go. It's a very personal experience, and I highly recommend it. I always forget to look at my camera because I never know where it is. Very bright lights going on. I don't like looking at them. I have astigmatism. No, thank you. But we got to do it. So I highly recommend this because I left feeling like more connected to myself, but also it's that drum beat, it's the music, it's the rhythm of the voice, it's everything about the journey um, that you offer is very peaceful, it's very healing, and it's very personal. And you don't get that a lot from just like YouTube things. YouTube is great for meditations and guided meditations, and you can do shamanic journeys on YouTube, I believe, but they're going to be less resonating than working directly with someone. And really, it's just proof that energy work doesn't need to be in person. Like you can literally work with anyone anywhere in the world, and that's why I love working with people online that are just anywhere. Like you're in a different country, and we're just like, hey, let's just chat. International conversations on a Saturday afternoon. It's a beautiful thing. But really, what you offer is this holistic approach to your spirituality because we know what it's like to not be tethered, to not be anchored. We've found those
Oh yeah.
experiences, we've talked about it before. It's very scary. And I don't think people really understand the grasp of like what we're living in. So, talking about your balance with your in real life, everyday kind of aspects of things, like we all have to make our beds, we all have to brush our teeth, we all, no matter how fucking spiritual you are, you don't get to bypass hygiene. So it's like little things that we all get reminders that we're human and not, no one's floating around on a cloud out there. And if you are, that's amazing. Please share your technology with us all soon. But, you
Yeah.
know, I feel like you have this cool balance of being great in real life and you can represent, you know, yourself in a different presentation online that's more true to your like core human self.
Yeah. And honestly, it's taken time to integrate for sure, but my fo- focus has always been okay, if I know this information, that's great. How can I use it? Because, like you said, life is real. No matter if you want to think and the nuance of it being like a dream or whatever, what have you, we have to, like you said, wake up, do stuff, eat, whatever, you know. And I found that integration in doing mini shamanic journeys for myself whenever I want. And that's why I really love doing a shamanic journey with somebody because I find that it's the way to attune you to what it's like. So I'll take you down and I'll ground you. And then I don't plan it ahead of time. I might get like maybe some time before, a couple hours before or the day before, I might get like an image of where we're going. And then I just think, okay, well, let's go there. And but each one is so deeply personal. I have no idea where we're going. I just let Gaia show us what's going to happen and the energy that the person needs to receive. Now, in everyday life, I will just drop into meditation and do that really quickly, and I will do it for I don't know 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, depending on how ungrounded I'm feeling or guidance that I need. And this is what I always tell people because it's the easiest thing to do and everybody has this time is just as you're falling asleep is the most amazing time to receive messages. And that is when I will do my pulling the light from the pleroma. And in my head, I call it tracking Sophia's original journey. And I mean, we can get into that, the whole Gnostic story, but in a nutshell, she came from the pleroma, which is identified as the galactic core, and that's where she came to become Earth. And so I take the light from her journey, ground it in through my body, send it down into the Earth, and then I follow it through my body, and then I go into the core. Um, and then, if I'm falling asleep, I might just watch it and follow it back up, and then just let the light course through me. I might push it out to my whole surroundings. And I like to do this before bed a lot. It just like clear your space with white light. I see it as white. And I find that practice is so simple, but it's what allows the messages that you need to receive to come through as you're falling asleep. They come through in your dreams, and they come through in the following days, weeks, months that you did that, and you ask like, okay, Gaia Sophia or goddess or whatever you want to call her, what do I need to know to make life or my life more beautiful? And that's always where I like to start it. I don't really like to say like, oh my God, what do I need to do? Because to me, it kind of creates a little bit of anxiety of that there's something that I'm not doing that needs to
Right.
be done. And then that is like, oh my God, panic. So I always like to ask, how can my life be more beautiful? Or how can I bring more beauty, more light into every moment and the people that I'm with? And then that that light that you are bringing into your body is a magnet. You don't really need to do much after. It's the people start to come to you, the opportunities start to come to you. You will suddenly maybe, and I know this is what happened to me, is um, suddenly you'll see a book that you've seen like 1,000 times and you were like, oh no, I'm not going to read that. And then suddenly you need to read it. It's like you can receive that information and you'll get those intuitive hits. And those little intuitions, they will get louder, and then that's what you follow. And I find that is the best way to bring these sorts of things into daily life, is to basically ask for the magic to happen, and then when it starts to happen, don't be scared because it can be kind of scary.
Yeah, that could be the hard part is like the not freaking out about
Oh
what's
yeah.
being processed because Man, sometimes you really see the simplisticness of life and you see how much we don't need this friction and we don't need this like egoic kind of center of communication. And all people can exist and thrive. I feel like that's a message that you really start to understand, and you see people as less of competition and more of, wow, they have a really interesting thought. I wonder how we can make this a conjoined thought or expand on it together. Or you see people as inspiration, and it's not this like egoic battle all the time.
Yeah, yeah, because there's definitely that. And I really do think that this is a part of, if you follow the Abrahamic religions, and the whole Gnostic story, and where that guy comes from and how he wants humanity to just be spinning our wheels and not going anywhere. I think that that message of not enough, of you have to be perfect to be loved, uh, all these things really stem from jealousy of that figure towards humanity, because we were created with intention, and he wasn't. And that is where you have to reframe it. And even still, I see again people's tweets or people's videos or whatever, and they're saying that everything is perfect and you are perfect as you are, and blah blah blah. And that kind of, again, that leads to like a little bit of anxiety of like, oh my god, like what if I'm not, what if I'm not doing the right thing, blah blah blah. And it's, well, I have a video about this because there was a time where, and this was when I was in Mexico, and I remember just being like, oh my god, I really just made the wrong decision here, and I'm eldest daughter, perfectionist, recovering perfectionist. And you make a mistake and you just beat yourself up over it, or at least I do. And I was at the beach when this happened, and I remember I was just like standing in the water. I was like, Gaia Sophia, how can I rectify this? How, like, why am I making mistakes? And I just heard so clearly. It was like, she said to me, I make mistakes too. And then I was like, oh yeah, like the whole story, the Gnostic story of Sophia being here, becoming our planet Earth, was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. She made the demiurge. That was a mistake. And then, like, oops,
Whoops.
that is the most major mistake that you can make as a freaking primordial being, is accidentally birthing something that wants to kill your creation and actually kind of bothers you.
Hmm.
And then I kind of just had that realization. I was like, wait, you know what, like, it's not the end of the world. And what became so clear is that it's not that we're not supposed to make mistakes. It's that we have to try things, and we will make mistakes, but it's in the correction. It's in, like, that is the moral gift that we have, that the demiurge and Abrahamic religions tell us that we have to pay for, or we have to confess to some random guy that actually might not be safe for us to do so in many senses. And, or there's just a lot of things that you have to do in order to be clean again, when in reality we already have that. We already have that. We already know when we make a mistake, and we can see it. We feel remorse, and there's people that maybe don't feel that, and those are other issues. But in general, if you make a real mistake, you go, man, like, I wish I wouldn't have done that. The beauty is that you have that intuition, and it can be corrected. And a lot of the time, that's when I step in again to my relationship with Guy Sophia, and I just go, here's my problem, help me fix it. And then once you do that, and you do that from a really, really grounded space, again, that's when magic happens. I told you about this apartment that this was like the height of COVID, and we kind of went crazy, and we were like, like, we're leaving, we're going to Mexico. And we let go of this apartment. And you know what, I don't regret it, because we really, it changed my life. And my brother, we took him with us, and he completely changed his life. He's a totally different person now, for the better. And And I remember just in the past like 3, 4 months, I remember being like, man, like I really wish that we didn't let go of that apartment. I wish that it was a little bit different, or I wish that I was somewhere else. And in my head, I was always thinking, I want to be back here. And then, I just gave it to Sophia. I remember I connected with Hestia of the Greek goddesses of the
Yes.
hearth and the home. And I just was connecting, and it wasn't a huge deep connection. I just remember being like, Gaia, please help me and help us move into the right home where our energy can flow better, and we can really, connect. Because this is where all my connections with Sophia happened, was in this apartment. And then, suddenly that landlord reached out to me and she was like, hey, you guys want to rent this place again? And I was like, yes, please. Thank you. But that I didn't ask for it. You know what I mean? It wasn't me being desperate trying to like make something happen. And I, when you can really feel when you're doing that, it's like a reaching of trying to fix something on your own, when that takes away from the overall power and presence that Gaia Sophia really has. And I remember you tweeted something a while ago, and it was something about that if you assume you need to help the earth, that's actually like really egoic on your part, and she doesn't need your help. And I think about that all the time, because she really can fix stuff for us. It's just we spend so much time in the way being like frantic and crazy, that she's just like, okay, like when you're done, let me know.
You're done and when you're ready for this message. And that's it's hard though, because like I said earlier, I work in oil and the energy sector. And it's only by proxy. It's something that I do a lot of like data entry research for, not necessarily out there like campaigning for let's just use oil forever. But I also look at the oil situation. I'm like, it's just carbon, it's a renewable resource, and people don't have that same view. I'm like, we're just carbon, we just go back into the ground. We talked about my Twitter bio too. I'm like, current person, future fungi. Like,
I know, I
I
love
know we
that.
go back to the earth. So why didn't we come from the earth too? Like, it's not that hard of a concept, but people make it so fucking difficult and they make it so fear based. And that's the biggest problem I had since a little kid. I was like, organized religion is organized crime. Like, I've never thought of it any differently.
I
I'm
just
a,
picture
I'm
you
a
like tiny, like protesting.
know it. And I was just like
Yeah.
this little like strawberry blonde kid that was just mad
Oh,
as shit. Like, I went to vacation Bible school because that's where my cousins went and both my parents worked. And after my
yeah.
parents got divorced, I was actually writing about it this morning. It was when Pluto was in Sagittarius from 1995 to 2008 was like our heyday after my parents got divorced. It was rocky at the beginning because the beginning of Sagittarius, as you have placements at 0 degrees Sagittarius, it is hard to have all that power when you have the freedom, when you have the ability, when you have the looks, because first house Jupiter always has the face card, like always. My partner's a first house Jupiter and Venus and Sun, and I'm like, what does it feel like to be God's favorite? Like, I hate this. I'm over here like, I'm the pretty one. Ah, no, it's
You're
so
gorgeous.
humbling to go from this like fear-based religion to spirituality because we are not the end all be all, yet we are. It's so weird that we're also God and also living in God's image, and
Yeah,
the God that we think of is not the God that we know. And
yeah,
this God that we talk about, and that's the other thing I think that I would love to hear your take on, because it's hard for me to say God sometimes, and it's
I
hard
know.
for me to tell people I'm going to pray for them because what I do isn't really prayer, and what I talk to isn't really God, as they know. But it's also like this, hey, I got you, or like, hey, I'm thinking of you, and our thoughts are so damn powerful.
God, it's crazy.
Um, I know for a fact that when my dad went through open heart surgery last year, when it was an emergency situation, he went in to get a routine pacemaker thing done. And I was in a situation of life or death with the one person that I have known my whole life that's always been there, whether I wanted him to be or not. We had a moment where I'm like, you're not going to die on me. And I looked at these doctors and I'm like, my dad's not fucking dying today. You go fix this right now. And it was very like this divine feminine rage. I lit this incense. I think it's behind me now. And it's called Sweet Rage. And I'm like, this is perfect for talking with
Oh, I
Mariah.
love it.
I'm like, people do not realize that the divine feminine is an angry motherfucker too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's a passion, right? Like it's a passion, it's a love. Um and yeah, I mean our intentions and our thoughts are so friggin' powerful. It's crazy. And just I know what you mean about God because I kind of grew up the same way. I went to a friggin' Christian school.
Yeah, I had that experience like for 1 year in Tennessee. And Tennessee in itself is another world, let alone whatever.
No,
But Christian school is a different animal.
it's crazy. It's your whole day is just revolved around this, and then you have Bible class and stuff like that. But whatever. You get a good background on what is maybe not what you want to go with. Um, and so yeah, I totally know what you mean about saying God. I personally don't really use the word God anymore, other than um, taking the name in vain, because I say that all the time.
It's a great blame card. You're like, God damn it.
Yeah,
I don't feel guilty about it. Mm.
whatever. You know? But for affecting other people in a way, and how I was saying, like, I'll pray for you. What I do is I don't really, I mean, I do distance Reiki for people, and I won't really talk about it. But I'll have people ask me. I know my mom was going through a really hard time, and she just asked me. She was like, "Hey, whenever you get some time, please just do some distance Reiki." But particularly, what I like to do is if I'm concerned about a family member, somebody close to me that's going through something, or somebody that I've connected with, I don't. I used to always be like, "Oh my god, I need to ask for their permission." I don't really anymore, because the energy that I send to them is just that white, beautiful renewal energy. And it's just, but that's also why I mostly do it with people that I know. Um, and I will just and I did this with my brother long before we went to Mexico. And he's been on medication since he was like 9 years old. He was in the throes of depression, and then it was ADHD, and then it was bipolar, and then he was working from home and gained so much weight, like just really fast, was eating like 3 takeout meals a day, and was living by himself, and was just like very not happy. He was just quick to anger all the time. And suddenly, the summer before we left, he was just like, I'm going off my medication. Um, I'm selling my car, letting go of my place. We should go to Mexico. And then I was like, okay. And then I remember kind of before that happened, I just had an image of him in my head being really healthy, and us being together and like doing something fun. And this is like law of attraction 101, is visualizing the outcome of what you want to experience. And I still really do believe that, because it works. Like, it's worked for me. And it's it's not a matter of trying to control a situation. It is just visualizing something where everybody's happy, or a person that's going through a hard time now, you picture them doing something that they love, or you picture going out to dinner and like celebrating. I remember Ruben got his PR last year, and it was like 3 years that we waited for it, and it started to get pretty stressful at the end. Of just being like, oh my god. But my visualization with that was, we are going to be just like hugging each other and celebrating. And then that is what happened, probably a few months after I really like dug deep into that visualization. And and this does track with the story of Sophia, is and this is where the nuance of the dream comes in. And I think the biggest issue that I find with telling Abrahamics this whole story is that they don't really seem to understand nuance, or they don't accept it in a creation story. And there is a lot of nuance. And so Sophia in the pleroma fell down, became earth. But the nuance here is that when she fell, it was her dreaming mind, as she is a creative being. We are creative beings created by a creative being that has more creative ability that we can imagine. It's just on a scale that our human mind can maybe comprehend. Might be able to, but that's something that's going to send you off into space.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you're just going to be on ground and then you got to come back, you know? But by nature of who she is just this creative being. And so in the story, there were a series of humans that were created and they didn't really succeed. Now, you could go and start theorizing about this and say they live on different planets in our, I don't know, wherever we are, galaxy, universe, etc. And that's totally a possibility. And that maybe there's some of them still around. But in this story, there wasn't the complete success. We kept like killing ourselves or going crazy and going egoic and killing each other, you know? And so Sophia, well, she was in the Pleroma, the galactic core, she started to think creatively, imagine, daydream is how like she started to daydream about a solution for humanity to thrive. Now, this was done without her male counterpart, and everything should be done with a male female pair to create wholeness, balance, you know, that's how we create life here. And she was just, and this story comes from John Lamlash and his pulling out from the Nag Hammadi, and he describes it as Sophia being like this young mother, this kind of a younger aeon, creative being, and the aeon is the Gnostic term, somebody who maybe is not as experienced. And her male counterpart is supposed to be, you know, a little more experienced, but he wasn't with her in this daydreaming. She was just passionate about it. And, you know, as we are, right? And she just had this so much concern that it pulled her daydream into the experience through the pleroma. Yeah. And because she did it without her male counterpart, as soon as she crossed that boundary, that is when, and this is really in the text, it is so crazy. It's described as an aborted fetus.
Wow.
Yeah, that there is just this offshoot that comes from her outside of the pleroma by a complete anomaly accident, because what's happening is already an anomaly. And what I love about this perspective is that it's not, there are rules and that they have to happen this way or it's not going to happen. It's like, you know, there's guidelines, because if you don't do it in a male female pair, then, you know, shit can happen. And it certainly did. And so she continues her journey, but she has this demiurge, Yahweh, trying to knock her off her course. And, you know, she's carrying the human genome with her. There's definitely more in the middle of the story. However, she eventually makes it and becomes our planet Earth, and she only has the female genome. She's had to leave the male genome in the Orion star system, which is the Orion male connection, and why we see so much um, like homage paid to Orion by Freemasons and a lot of male secret societies. But my point is here that this was all a daydream. It was all a dream of Sophia as she became our planet. And that is why we can interact with her, because we are still in her dream, daydream. I like to call it a lucid dream now, and something that has stuck with me. And I think this was from a John Lamlash video or his book, which is amazing. It's called Not in His Image. Was that when you're truly in a lucid dream, you don't know. You don't know it. And that's how I feel like it kind of explains a lot of why people think we're in a simulation, or why our reality is so malleable, is that we are in the lucid dream of the goddess who made us, and this, her scale is so much bigger that, you know, in our lucid dreams it's immediate. You think of something, you turn around and it's there. But her scale is so much bigger than us, which means time, like her time takes longer for us. And that is why, you know, you might get it in a couple months, 3 to 5 business days. I don't know. I find that manifestation, it can happen really quickly, but for real things that move your life forward, it's, you know, it's usually not the next day. And I really do think that is because we are in the lucid dream of our planet, which makes things more interesting. I think it's a much more beautiful story than the Abrahamics, and it leaves, like, there's just a lot more answers. And and you learn the creation story of the Christians is, created stuff in 7 days, whatever a day is, we don't know. And that suddenly it was just there, and there, you don't know why it's there. But if if there is this semblance that it's a lucid dream and things are created by this aeon who just creates like we create, that gives a little more context, a little more intel, really. Like it's the intel that we're looking for. And the the demiurge Yahweh, it's just all, don't question me, you'll never understand. Right?
Tiny little brain doesn't get it.
Yeah, or you got to pay a priest.
Yeah, if you tithe and if you give us enough money, like I don't want to be a part of a group that I have to pay any sort of money to. Like if I have to have like some sort, if I have to pay to hang out with my friends, that's why I didn't join any sororities. I've never joined, like at most I've been in like book clubs, and even then it's like this
Yeah,
is free, right? We're just hanging out.
you
But
pay
like
for the book, like.
multi-level marketing, that shit doesn't work on me. Like it's not gonna happen. But
Same.
you think about organized religion and just the Abrahamic religions, like you were talking about, they just operate and thrive off the sense of control. And from what I understand, even astrology is just like blatantly obvious in the Bible, and it's so funny to
It
me.
is.
I've done
Yeah.
videos on it before, and I had very, very thin, pencily eyebrows at the time, so I want to redo it because I'm an Aries and I'm supposed to have these strong eyebrows, but like I was just going through it and plucking my eyebrows so thin. I looked very like Pamela Anderson-ish with the
I
like,
love
and I
it.
think it's great because it's very like a 1920s look too. But like they just express so much because so much more to me of my face was showing, and I'm like, I don't like this. So even then I was like breaking out. It's 7 days. You don't think the seven personal planets have anything to do with that? And they're all happen to be ruled by the planets, and all the things that they created happen to coincide with all the planets. That's a little bit weird, huh? The 12 disciples, we're not going to talk about that. The 12 number. Okay, guys. And then like just the more, and like my favorite book was always the Book of Revelations, which is just says so much about me as a person. The book that my uncle would be like, "Don't you dare read that." Uh
Are you supposed to read it? Like,
because there's a whore of Babylon, duh,
it's
and you
part
can't
of the book.
yeah, well, you can't talk about horrors because it's not Christian, but then it's in the Bible. So I'm just like, let's talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, you guys. Like
Yeah.
I could go for days. Like my favorite movie growing up was Dogma, and then like anything with Adam Sandler. So like Dogma was just like this just complete obliteration to Christianity, and having what is it, Jay and Silent Bob in that movie to begin with, and then it's like Chris Rock, Selma Hayek, like all these, just, and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are angels. Like it's just very chaotic, but
Yeah,
like,
I want to watch it now.
oh my god, I have it on VHS still, don't worry.
No
I
way.
can watch it in the goddamn apocalypse if needed to. But it's like these type of movies exist and they were so powerful, but like they're just brushed off as comedy. I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't think if there's wars here on this like jankety planet at times, you don't think there's wars elsewhere, like in other different places that they're just like going on? We represent so much of what has always happened. Like if there's nothing new under the sun is
Yeah.
kind of what I feel like the Bible talks about, and also pretty much all Gnostic texts that I've run into would be like everything that you could ever think of happening. There was drama and messiness back in the day, just like there is now. Like it's nothing new. We just have more technology. Or what is your view on that?
I just think we're recording it in a way that maybe was lost before. Um, I think that the whole burning of the Library of Alexandria was probably the most recent instance of losing a lot of stuff. And I don't know if we ever had video recording before or
Right.
audio or anything like that. Like you don't know. Nobody knows because stuff has just been destroyed. But and maybe there was an internet back then or what have you. But we have it now, and I really do, you know, it can be. kind of damaging at times. It could be archontic as a copy of things that aren't real. However, it lets information out, and it, it's going to be hard to have another burning of the Alexandria library again because everything is out there. Like you said, you've got a VHS. We like there's
Can't stop
people,
me.
yeah, that have hard drives of information, and every computer would have to be obliterated to never access it again. And I think that there's people that can probably just build a computer now. Of course, you need the parts for it, but there just
It's scary.
technology has come such a, you know, so far. And like I said, there's no way to know that they weren't doing this kind of stuff in ancient Egypt. We don't know because there's I mean, I don't like to believe all the paranoid stuff. However, I do think that there is a group that is pretty small and very rich and underground that has a lot to do with the information that does get out. And they probably know what kind of tech has been used in the past. And but even if it is just books, I I believe like there's got to be a way, ancient or not, of recording audio, I would think, just because of the sound and frequencies and just storage of information that we know that you can store so much data in a little bit of DNA, and that you can, I think sounds and stuff can be stored in rocks or something, or at
Mhm.
least like psychically there's ways to access stone, and like different pieces of stone can hold information, and whether that information is being funneled from the stars at certain times like at Stonehenge, and then somebody can interact with it and receive that information. Like I do think that there's ways that those kinds of things can hold stories for us. um, but now with the connection that we have, I really do think that it maybe was started in a way in a method of control, but as Sophia usually does, she will spin it in her favor because she really is the grandest power that is here, you know, and these societies and the Abrahamics might think that they have more power, but there are just instances of things that shouldn't happen, but they do. And of, I remember there was something, and people always think that it's aliens, but of, I think nuclear warheads just being shut off randomly, and those kinds of stories that I'm like, I don't think it's aliens. I think it's just our planet, you know.
Yeah,
And she
nature
even
is
has,
kind of like an alien to me, but like I get it.
yeah, no. Um, she does, she comes from somewhere else, but we are so ingrained in her that she really, I really do believe that she will do whatever she can to protect us, and it is our own personal choice whether we join her or not.
Yes.
And I think that we do get that choice, and really that's why I keep sharing the story again and again and again and again, and just like saying the same thing over and over, because I want people to know the story, to understand that there is more than just a father God who's judging you, telling you you're not good enough, telling
Watching you all the time, like, what
you,
is
yeah,
this?
like just being super creepy and gross. And like that there's something else. There's something, well, there's actually his mother is real and exists and is here as our planet and will contact you in your own dreams.
Mhm. Like you can just bypass the weird supervisor, like just go around. It's okay.
We're going to the top, you
We're
know, we're going
going
to the top.
straight to the owner. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing else. And to to know that there's something more than just this fear-based kind of existence is really where people can start. Like the spiritual journey doesn't have to be full of like things that don't make really any sense to your friends and family. Like you can literally simply look around you, see a tree, see a bird, see some ants, see everything around you, and that can be your spiritual experience. It doesn't have to be diving into anything. Like you don't have to go anywhere to be spiritual. And I think this like new age type of charging people a bunch of money for things that they have within themselves is where people create a lot of in my opinion, static for themselves. They create a lot of pushback from this beautiful, living, breathing universe that we're in because it's almost like profiting off of something that's meant to be naturally flowing through us seems a little bit off. However, I think there are things that you need to adhere to. Like if you're not charging enough for your work and you're giving out your energy to people who aren't
Just leave
appreciating
it.
it, you're
Mhm.
not living in that creative dream and that creative design. Like we are here to create magic, but it's like it doesn't look like poof, I've turned you into a frog. It is a lot more of the alchemy within ourselves. And that's what I think knowing your astrology, knowing your human design, whatever system people gravitate towards. I used to
Mhm.
be like, no, astrology is the only thing that matters. And now I'm like, have you guys heard of human design as well? It is based on Eastern and Western and it meets there. Like 2020 for me was realizing that it's okay to be myself. I had never heard somebody call me a free spirit before, but that happened during an interview one day. And it
Nice.
was while I was like randomly living on a beach during the middle of quarantine by
Love
myself
it.
in someone else's house. And I was just doing whatever I wanted to, thousands of miles away from home, while my business was running in the background. It's fine. But it was just
Great.
like, I was like, yeah, I guess I am a free spirit. I guess I have gone and done a bunch of stuff, but we do kind of need to like have that consciousness come back to us. And to me, 2020 around my birthday, I remember drinking on, it was like Periscope. I did a live Periscope and we did champagne drinks with my distant friends and then weird people from the internet from my old personality that I had created in my sports media career. And it was
Nice.
fun. I had a great time, but I'm like, am I really like celebrating my birthday with a phone propped up so I can talk to my friends on a live stream? Like, this is so dystopian. I don't like it. But then I'm like, no, I'm gonna be out there. I'm gonna be outside. I'm gonna do what I want. And I did. I continue to operate my business, which is the only like media network running during that time. Just doing, I did like a live stream for the draft, did a huge draft party for the NFL draft in 2020, and it was a huge hit. But it was like 3 days after I started my network, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's just jump in. But
Wow.
like the more I was creating, the more I was getting pushback from people who just couldn't see my vision.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of talk in the spiritual world of like how people are super spiritual, they're super balanced, they're healing, helping others, doing great things, but they're doing it from a place of lack. They're not actually taking care of themselves. I've seen so many people in the spiritual community need help through GoFundMe's, through emergency funding assistance and things like that. And I have to encourage people to take care of themselves before trying to assist others. It's like that airplane oxygen mask thing. You have to take care of, put on yours before trying to help anybody else because you have to be okay in order to do that. But what is it about how powerful and how calling um you know this world can be? Like what is it about getting called to this world and how people can be in a broken place and still heal through creating. People can be in a place of transit, but yet still heal and still help others healing. Is there a limit to what you recommend for attempting this work? If somebody is in a place right now where they might not have, just say, a solid, consistent place to sleep every night, should they be tapping into their spiritual journey or should they be focusing on like security and like, is there a guidebook for these things? Because I feel like I want to make spiritual content for every level of accessibility and that kind of like includes everyone. So if someone was literally starting from ground zero with nothing to their name, no place to go, and they're getting their physical security stuff figured out, spiritual wise, what would you say to them as far as starting their journey with even, I mean, you can sit under a tree and know nothing, and that's something that you can still do.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really beautiful because it is, I mean, that happens. It happens to people and you never think it could happen to you and then, it could. And I just I really do believe that connection to our planet as Gaia Sophia, I say it all the time. I really think that that is the sole point of nourishment that we can access at all times for free. And it really that and I've had this in my own life where I've always had a place to sleep. I'm very lucky. And I've been at times where I'm not feeling secure, or I'm not feeling provided for, I'm not feeling nourished, I'm not feeling grounded. And then that is when I drop into meditation, and I'm reminded every single time that the nourishment that I'm looking for, the money that I'm looking for, the security, like job security I'm looking for, the home that I'm looking for, it all starts with being grounded into my body, into this planet, because Gaia Sophia, as our creator, can give that to us. She can give it to us on every single level. And I watched a video about the Hindu goddess Lakshmi.
Ooh.
I really love her as well. I really, and to me, I see every goddess aspect, personality, as just like a different light through the prism of Gaia Sophia. And it's the cultural perspective of the goddess, also in a certain area, and she becomes real in that sense, and we access her in that way. And I remember I was watching some video, and she talked about this, not Lakshmi, but a girl talked about,
That'd be
uh,
amazing.
I know, right? Talked about her relationship with Lakshmi, and that there are these different Sanskrit names. I can't remember the names of them now, but she deals with like 4 or 5 different types of nourishment. And it's like, yes, there is spiritual food that you need, but you really do need real life nourishment. And that does come from the goddess. And my biggest hurdle that I have dealt with time and time again is that I don't trust that the creator of my life could provide to me in that way also, because I get so much spiritual nourishment. I that's just so very natural to me. I can get these visualizations, I can connect with people, I have these crazy dreams, I show up in other people's dreams, like that kind of stuff is just very normal to me. And I just think that that's where it ends sometimes, and this is the biggest hurdle for me, is that I have to connect in deep and be like, no, listen, the creator of my life can also bring me the real material opportunities that I'm seeking. It just probably won't come in the way that I'm thinking. And it they do come once you have settled your system and you stop panicking. Because that panic, it's real. And it is real when you're in a situation and you don't know where you're going to sleep, or where you're going to get your food. And that is, it's something where I feel like kind of silly being like, you know what, just like drop in and ground. But anytime in my life where I have really needed something to happen, it has pretty much never happened from like me actually doing something to get it. And often when I do that, or I go and I get a job that, like, maybe I should have just waited and there was another opportunity coming to me, I will waste like a year or two doing something where it's like, well, actually, I didn't really need to do that. And if instead I would have just like waited a little bit, then an opportunity comes. And even still, like sometimes I will deny that opportunity. I will be like, no, that's not good enough. And then I've had it happen several times where that opportunity will be like, no, actually, like you should really probably do this. And then I'm like, okay, tell me twice, like then I'll do
I
it.
love
Right.
that so much.
It's crazy. Like I've had that happen several times where I'll be doing one kind of job that is, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me, but I can do it. And then somebody comes to me and be like, hey, work for me. I'm like, no. And then they're like, a couple days later, like, no, actually, like you should work. And I'm like, okay, fine. But that opportunity is not what I had expected at all. It's not what I wanted in my head. But in reality, it really led to, and this was just before the pandemic, it led to me working from home and having the space that I needed to fully receive Sophia. So it was that, it's like there are things that will happen that will work out in ways that you cannot anticipate. And because it's preparing you for something that you don't even know yet. And I think that it's really beautiful. And I find that once you are grounded and you're bringing that white light through you, like I said before, that is when you're magnetic. If you are panicking and thinking that everything has to be done by you and it's not getting done, or it has to be done by this god that's jealous of you, and you're like not having a good time, then that energy is what you're putting into your field. You said it before, it's like a static. It really is like a static. I've seen it with Reiki clients before. It's just a buzz in the field that's taking up space. And if you can just ground it, give that energy back to Gaia, because I say this all the time as well. We breathe out carbon dioxide. She gives us oxygen via trees. Like that is just something that's so natural. We can give her our shit garbage and she will take that energy, transmute it, and make it beautiful and give it back to us like a gift. And it'll be something that you probably didn't even think of, but it'll be the thing that you actually need and that you want to move forward. Because, and this is something else that is a huge part of the mysteries, and I'm sure we'll talk about this for the fall equinox. This is the
Excited.
spring equinox where we're planting the seeds, but the real crux of the mystery of the fall equinox, with the sheaf of wheat, is that the goddess is through us and giving to us at the same time. She, it's like, because we are, back to the dream analogy. If you have a lucid dream and there are other people in your dream, technically they're all your mind, anyways, because it's happening in your head. So if we use that analogy and think about us being in the lucid dream of our planet, like, okay, yes, we have an ego and we think that we're operating on our own, but that crux of the mystery, that gift, is that we're not. And it's that we are members of her dream, and that when we can kind of let go and allow her lucidity to bring us what we desire, she already knows it. Like her awareness is so huge that she already knows what we really want. She knows so much of what we really want that you will be like, oh my God, I didn't even know that I wanted that. That's what happened to me with this apartment. I was trying so hard to think of like, oh my God, I need to be in a different apartment. It's gonna be this, that, or the other thing. And then she was like, okay, but like every time you think about it, you're visualizing that apartment that you've been in before. So here it is. And I was like, I didn't even know, you
That's
know? And then it
beautiful.
just, yeah, it just works out, but it takes some time, and it really is engaging with the trust of that our planet can take care of us. And I find that that is also a mother wound for a lot of people. Maybe they had a mother that didn't provide for them, that didn't take care of them in the ways that they needed to be taken care of. And that is what she does. That's what Gaia does. She takes care of us in ways that we can't even anticipate. We really are her luminous child. That in the story where we're Horus. I always hear people talking about Horus being Christ, or Horus being some other divine child. It's like, no, like you are that. You are that child. I find there's probably a lot more nuance with Christ than is spoken about, but that's the same story. We are that luminous child that has been birthed to be here and is just the light of our mother. And it's not that there isn't a father. There is a father. It's just, for the purposes of our story, the mother is so involved because she is correcting the mistake that she made.
Ooh, I like that.
It's the correction. She is
Yeah,
correcting it, right?
that's a
And
really great way to look at that.
yeah, and there is a father, but he's kind of in the pleroma, but he's still watching out. He's like, girl, I will help you
Yeah,
get
I
out of
got
this
you.
mess.
And that's what I
And
think
I've,
that we need as women.
yeah,
We need that, hey, it's gonna be okay, but you have to have faith. And it's
yes,
not necessarily faith in a old church pew listening to some person who hasn't connected with his higher self in years tell you how to live life. Like that's just not how it works.
yeah,
I really do believe that there's something about finding that within yourself and finding your own personal sanctuary within yourself and knowing that it's going to be okay. It's very especially For Virgo placements who are neurotic and Gemini placements, I have a Gemini moon. I have to know everything all the time about every little detail. The information that I consume on a daily basis would horrify most people, but it's like yeah, it's not necessarily like the topics, it's the amount.
I like that.
And like the writing, but you get it. Like you are very much a very highly intelligent and very like I feel like you're so adept to learning and you're so natural with spreading knowledge. You're such a teacher. You're the big wise teacher of so many
Oh,
different things. And if Aries can ever get over them thinking they know everything, they can learn a lot from Sagittarius. And if we can both just clown on Leo, which is the funny we can just
yeah.
make fun of Leo as the fire sign, the remainder one. My
Yeah.
favorite honorary fire sign is Scorpio because I really feel like they belong way more in fire modality than they do water, but they're also big crybabies. And crying is so healing too. We're talking about going in the spring equinox, we're talking about the Pisces going from the death cycle to the birth cycle and the death to
I
birth.
yeah.
What is that really separated by? Like when we go to sleep every night, we just close our eyes and hallucinate and just have out of body experiences and we just wake up and go to a corporate job after that. Like how? How do we do this? It's a mystery, but it's like that to me is that grand balance of like you were just in the mystic and then bam, you wake up and it's like, wait, is this a dream too? Oh, okay. And you start to see things as that law of attraction and that magnetism. Like earlier, I was looking out the window at my one bird feeder and then being sad because my bird feeder closest to me didn't have birds on it. And I'm like, man, I can't wait till the birds find out that there's a bird feeder over here too. I look back out the window and there's birds there. And I'm like,
Boom.
boom. And it was nanoseconds, I feel like. But as much as there's a concept in the Hindu culture too. I think it's called Vakshati. I'm probably butchering that because I can never pronounce things. I try.
There you go.
But when you have spent most of your life reading and not hearing things pronounced,
Yeah.
you're always pronouncing things wrong. So I'm just like, look, bear with me. But it's this concept of people who only speak the truth, and then things happen the way that they say they're going to happen. So it's like when you speak from a place of honesty, truth, and authenticity, which is all what Aries season demands out of people. Um, there is that watery murkiness of Pisces. I do have a Pisces Mercury in a ton of placements, and they're known as being liars. They're known as stretching the truth, exaggerating it, embellishing it is the best way to put it. It could have a semblance of truth, but it's like 99% of it. It's just like, this might have happened, but it's also the way that they victimize themselves.
Yeah.
And Pisces energy is a lot about overcoming the victimization because we could all be victims of
Yeah.
some sort of story. We've all faced people in our lives that were not meant to be there in our minds, but yet taught us a greater lesson of what we needed to know. It might be 20 years from now, it might be a month from now when we realize what that person's role was. But people are gifts because they show what we're kind of attracting in ways
Yeah.
and the magnetism that we bring. And you can always learn something from it, from everything. But with Aries, they think they are, the baby and also the boss. They have this just, I
Exactly.
mean, I've been understanding this energy for, I guess, 35 going on 36 years now. And it is just this fire starter. Like we just want what we want when we want it.
Oh yeah.
It's very much just demanding of sorts. Like you get it. I don't have to explain it to you. But the fact that we all have this thing around spring where we're all shifting seasons, we're all shifting from this death to life cycle. In the Gnostic approach to spring, what should people be doing around this time? You said planting the seeds is a big part. And then we go back into fall and we're like, the harvest is here. All of our hard work for the last 6 months has come to a point where we get to enjoy it. So, is it really about starting something new right now or simply reframing what we already have? Or what would you say is the Gnostic approach to spring?
So, I mean, Gnostic approach is in direct partnership with our planet. And I think that that is the most beautiful part of it is realizing how truly connected we are when our mood shifts, our brain shifts, and we start like it feels hopeful again once we get to Aries season. And like you were talking, like Pisces is just kind of like that where you're like, okay, I'm going to hibernate. And then Aries, you're like this expansiveness, like fiery, let's do a project, let's do something. And it really, and then it's reflected in our outside perspective. We start seeing growth again. And I mean, I'm up in Canada, so like we're not quite planting yet because you never know when it could freeze over. But the grass is starting to look greener, and it is that connection to our planet that reminds us how alive we are, how alive our planet is, and how true and real that connection is. And I think that from a Gnostic perspective, the most beautiful thing to do right now is to remember that connection. And I think that that is the most beautiful seed to plant, is that we can learn the story of the goddess, of the Gnostic creation story. And it begins as like a tiny little seed. And seeds are huge in Gnostic texts. The mustard seed, Jesus has a parable about it. And it's just that there is so much information in a little tiny seed that can grow. And I really do believe that the seed of learning where we are, getting the context of why our planet is so alive and provides for us, and why that affects us so much as humans, why we're here, why we're the ones that have the ability to interact with everything around us as if we're in a dream. And it's just like that, when we plant that seed of kind of knowing who the goddess is, and that she is alive as our planet. She's, returned as Persephone from the depths. She is here with us, and she's like, it's almost like you can hear her like laugh again. You can hear her giggle and you can hear the delight, and you see it in people. You see the mood shift. You see people are like, they just seem to be happier. People are, walking the street, they might like actually say hello to you now, instead of, in the winter it's like, okay, no, I'm, on my own path. And I think that that recognition of knowing that the goddess has been here with us the whole time, even throughout the winter, and then now, okay, wow, we can see her, we can see that she's smiling at us, smiling with us, then that really sets the tone of everything going forward. And then once we reach the fall equinox, there really will be something to harvest. And it might just be that your relationship with the goddess is much stronger with your planet, or something happened and you get material goods from it, which is usually the case when you start to develop that kind of spiritual relationship. And I want to call it more like psychic, because it is that, it's that connection of the right brain, the intuition back into where we are in planet Earth, and the magnetism that's all around us. It really, like, it does affect us. And when we can attune to that on that level, then, like I said before, that's when the magnetism really does bring in real harvest, real material things. It could be a new job, it could be money, it could be a person coming into your life, it could be anything. And I believe the best place to start right now is to start building that relationship, start, talking to trees, start just going for a walk in nature and just being like, you know what, thank you. If you don't like the term Gaia, that's fine. But just saying, like, thank you to my planet where I live, that is giving me air to breathe. Thank you for supporting my life, because that's what she does. And I really love to use the term Gaia because every time I use Gaia, the Greek word, it just reminds me every single time of the, what were they called? The priestesses of Delphi
Yes.
in Greece, when they were in the cave at Delphi, which kind of sounds like Sophia, Delphi, and it's not like they were just picking random messages out of their heads. Their whole purpose was to connect to Gaia, and they pulled messages from Gaia to give to people that consulted them. And that's why I think that that practice is so important to come back to, not only as women. I think men can do it too. Um, but Oracle was the word I was looking for. The
Yes.
oracles of
I was
Delphi.
like, I'm pretty sure it's Oracle. And then I had like these Oracle cards in the back of my head, and I'm like, I can't remember. It just said an O word. I'm not going to say Orion because you do not need to put Orion into this sacred space.
Yeah, Orion. Yeah, he can stay over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they consulted Gaia. They got their messages from the Earth Mother, and I. It's not like this is a new age practice. The Gnostic stuff is even further back than that, and their whole purpose was connecting with Gaia, the planet, and you might not find that specific intel in the Nag Hammadi codices, but there is a book called Against Heresies by Irenaeus. I don't know exactly the time of that, but I think it was Greek, ancient Greek, something like that. Um, and his whole purpose, he was like a church father or whatever, and his whole purpose was to debunk what the Gnostics thought.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and
Thank
so
God.
it's online. You can find the translations. Yeah, and it will say like this is what these crazy Gnostics believe, blah 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 blah. And there's a part that has stuck with me always of it's something to the sense of they believe that this they give another name to her, like something kind of crazy, like Alzioth or something. Um, and they call her, they say this is the Aeon that they believe in, and that she fell and her passion became the lakes and her sweat became the salt water and her terror became, the mountains, things like that. Like that is all described in the Against Heresies by Irenaeus, trying to debunk everything that the Gnostics believed. I'm like, this is the most beautiful poetic thing I've ever read. Like it,
Yeah. Like, thank you for this.
yeah, and it describes the emotions of the mother Aeon in becoming our planet, that her emotions became the physical things that we live within, like the lakes and the mountains and the land and things like that. And once I think like that little seed right now, once we just kind of have that in our psyche and pay attention to it and allow it to kind of grow with the seasons, it really does kind of blossom. And I even remember when I started to really let Sophia expand in my life, it was around February of 20 something, 2020, 2021. But it was around like the same time of year where it kind of happened in February, and then slowly over the months it just kind of blossomed and bloomed, and then I fully understood it. And it does take that time. It takes the time with where we are, because it's not like, I think people, and I don't know if it's just me, but I think people sometimes think that we are stationary and that the stars shift around us, but it's like, no, like we're going for a ride. Like we are moving places, and when we move places with our planet, our magnetism changes and so does hers, and that affects our brain. And it all kind of comes together for this time of year, at least for us to accept these kinds of new ideas and for them to really take root, instead of just kind of, if you throw the seeds in the middle of winter, they're not going to go anywhere. But now we can throw them on the ground that is, ready to receive it, and allow that to come to fruition. And I really think that that's what this time of year is about, is just letting that happen. And it starts with those little seeds. And now you can definitely say you want to like manifest a new job or something like that. Like you can place those seeds now too. But I think that the concept of having the relationship with the goddess first and allowing those opportunities and the material things that you want, that you really desire, to come to you through her, because they will. You just have to trust. And like I said, this was my thing. You just have to trust that she can provide in that way as well. And she really is the alpha and omega. We hear somebody else who wants to be that, but I don't know.
You gotta be able to create life in order to be both, I feel like. And, there's the ability for men to create life with so many women and go around the world and spread their seed, so to speak. And, when they do it, it's like, oh, Nick Cannon has a billion kids. That's so cute. When women have that many kids with that many different partners, it's not as cute, but it is ancient. Women have been doing that for a very long time. You know, there's all sorts of god and goddess represented through mythology that have had all these tumultuous situations, all these different partners. Like, I mean, look, you can look at Greek mythology just as one that we've been told a lot, and it's like, what did Zeus impregnate? Huh?
Everything.
Everything. The answer is if you could see it, he fucked it. So
Yeah.
there's that. And it's like the balance of that sacred union and realizing our power as individuals. It's realizing how we can actually like work with this energy to create life, and that alpha and omega kind of archaic, like, oh, this is just this old man with a beard with a stick watching you do everything all the time. It seems a little bit like Santa Claus, and it freaks me out. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But when you think of this living, breathing entity that is all around you, supporting you, bringing things to you, you don't just walk up and be like, "Hey, what's up? So I know I haven't believed in you forever, really, and I just found you. I need some money. Hurry it up." Like that's not how it works. Like, and you're 100% right, creating the relationship with the goddess and not having this like just your handout mentality
Yeah.
in general. You know, even people on Shark Tank that walk up and say, "Hey, I need $1 million," have put in years, if not decades, into a product or a concept or a thought. It's about, instead of just waking up to live and make more money to buy more things you don't need, it's about living to work to afford the things that you can create and do. Like, I feel like when I first learned that I could just go to a job and do certain things all day long and get money in return, I was like addicted to working. I'm like, I have to work every job all the time, nonstop. Being addicted to working is part of my personality. I just made it that. Um, and then I bought the things that I wanted to create the things that I wanted to do. It was never working just to like stack up a savings account. I never had money. As quick as it came in, it went out. Especially in the service industry, when you get cash, you're like, great.
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, I'm like, bye, see you later, life experience or whatever. But it's so true about having this like creation living inside you. And if you're not able to create yet, that might be a sign that it's still time to create that relationship or to work on building that foundation in your life of stability, removing energies that, you know, even screw up your pH level. It's like, to me, when you're not with the person that truly respects you, you're disrespecting yourself every time, you know, you're in that space. It can be friends, it can be family, it can be anything. I also want to debunk the myth that you have to travel somewhere or like go to some like fountain of youth to heal. You can heal in the same place that you were abused. And not to go too much into personal stuff, like I feel like we've all had times where it's like you don't have a choice. It's a, you have to heal in that moment, or you have to be the bigger person in that moment. You could be the most triggered you've ever been, but it's like true balance and true um enlightenment comes from not hurting people sometimes, and it's that choice to not show that blade and to not deal that coup de grace. It's that extension of kindness, and it's like, if you that if you want your god or whatever your flying spaghetti monster to be somebody that judges you and can cut you down because you didn't say a prayer the correct way at the right time facing the right direction, that's on you. You can do that. But
Yeah.
if you want somebody that really embraces you as your full, flawed yet perfect self, I feel like relationship with Gaia is a great way to start off spring.
Yeah. And honestly, you mentioned that um, there is something to give in return. And I do believe that. And I think that that is, remember, I started this saying that I had to love my body.
Yes.
That, that honestly, that was my gift to the goddess. And that is really all she wants, is for you to love yourself. Sounds so cliche, but like, if she's the one that gave you life and life is a gift, you can say thank you for that. And if you think of the analogy that she really is your mother, you know, if you have a healthy relationship with your mother, then there's really not much she wants from you other than for you to enjoy yourself and to enjoy your life. And that is the relationship that we can all have with Gaia. And it really does start with appreciating life, even though it might not be what you want it to be. To be here at all is a gift. And it's a gift that gets cut short for a lot of people. And the fact that we're here and enjoying it and interacting and just, even here at all is a total absolute miracle. So when we can just focus on that, like that is the ultimate gift, is to love where you're at right now. And that is really all she wants in return. It's like, it's completely true. And that was the biggest shift for me, was just being like, you know what, first start off I was like, I'm okay with my body, and then it turns into, I love my body, I appreciate my body, thank you to my body for carrying me this whole freaking way. And then that is what allows the synapses to kind of change around and retrack how they need to retrack, so that you can even receive the goddess in any sense. Because if you're just busy not appreciating who you are or the life that you have, or at least like acknowledging that it's pretty cool to be alive, then that's the static that she can't really get through. That is really the entryway, is just appreciating your life. And that gift is free. It's free and it's beautiful.
Yes, I don't know what audience I'm looking around to, but I'm just like, you are speaking the truth right now.
Yeah,
Good Lord, show some gratitude. It's not that hard. Whew, that's beautiful. And it
it's
really speaks to what you're developing with your world. Can you tell people where to find you on YouTube and all your platforms and the things that you do? Because you're magical and you're definitely somebody that, if people give the time to listen to your words and to feel your energy, it's definitely transformative.
thank you. Well, I'm on YouTube. You can find me as Mariah KCG, I believe my handle is on YouTube. And I'm on Twitter as Uraeus de Aurum, which is crazy to say out loud too, but it means, the little snake here on the pharaoh stuff.
Yes.
It's like that of gold is what it means. Um, yeah, but you could probably also look up Mariah KCG. I think I should come up that way as well. And I have a Etsy shop where you can find my readings and we can book a shamanic journey together. And my name there is 10 of Cups 888.
Is there like a reason behind that name? I'm just nosy and I'm like, I love Ten of Cups in general as the tarot card, and then the 888. I love eights, so
I mean, eight is like money. I just love eights. And it's like an infinity as well, which is why I like it. But 10 of Cups to me is the ultimate like fulfillment, that I don't know, it's what I want all the time. It's that emotional fulfillment. You could have 10 of any of them is really what you're going for, but for me the 10 of Cups of just like emotional fullness and completeness is what I'm always going after. I'm just such a lover girl that my my whole focus, like, and the one thing that I wanted to manifest in my life, and then after that I was kind of like, okay, now what, was my relationship. And once I did that and it's going great, I was just kind of like, okay, well, what should I do now? And then that's when I started to get into my relationship with the goddess. But yeah, that's why I focus on 10 of Cups, because I feel like I would resonate with people who are after the same sort of thing. I really love to talk to people about relationships, other than my whole Gaia thing. I really like to help people manifest relationships, or kind of work through their blockages that are stopping them from actually receiving and being able to handle somebody that really loves them. Because that's kind of usually the shtick, is like, sure, you may have your dream guy like knocking on your door, but if you aren't confident enough to like open it, like that's something in the way. So yeah, so that's 10 of Cups. I think it's a beautiful card.
I love that so much. You have such a like golden aura around you to begin with, and when you start to talk about what you do, it just shows so much. So I really do highly recommend anyone and everyone to check out Mariah's work. It's something that I feel is something that you could like consume in like the way that you consume like TV series. It's like, all right, go and start here. And then you got this video. And then, oh, wait, there's more. Like, it's really the journey with being in Gnosticism in general, I feel like, is learning to trust yourself more. If nothing else, you are divinely made, you are perfect and yet flawed at the same time. There's just so much holisticness about Gnosticism that the more that I have journeyed through Stoicism, the more that I've journeyed through, like I said, the Abrahamic religions, they didn't really speak to me as something that was feminine in nature and something that felt like home. It's all this rigidness and all this like you must do this, this, and this. You must have this
Or you'll
structure. Your day
burn.
must start like I'm bored. Like
Yeah.
sorry, this isn't gonna work for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because it's yeah, and you just find in the Christian church and Abrahamic stuff that they're so afraid of women.
Hmm.
Like, why are you hiding the figure of woman? Why are you not allowing a woman to be in the same area of your holy place? Like, what is all that about? Well, if you get into the meat of the Gnostic story, it's the jealousy of the real true power. And I've said this before, it's not that men don't have power. We talked about this previously. I think the most beautiful way to see it is I don't remember if I was listening to a podcast or something, but it was about Aboriginals in Australia where the women will have like a sacred ritual and they will do that in a cave or somewhere in nature, and then the men will be outside of that, like far enough away, surrounding them and protecting them, allowing them to do that magic. And I think that that is the most beautiful way to see the relationship with men and women is, you know, women are going to do magic and it's going to be felt, and if you just like give us a space to do that, make sure there's no intruders, then we will do that magic for you also, and it'll be beautiful because that protection from the men is what we need, and what honestly what women crave, I think, is that stability and that protection. And I think it's a really beautiful pairing. And I don't want anybody to ever think that my whole focus is that it's only women here and that women exist only and that there's no need for man, because I don't believe that. It's just not true. It's
Right.
just for the purpose of our story, there's just a little more involvement with the woman side of things, and that has been severely downplayed with the religions that we've all been brought up with. So when we kind of like flip that back, people really get triggered, and that is a part of also of bringing her back into the conversation, allowing that magic to flow, is connecting now with the March equinox, connecting with other women, not being jealous of other women, and knowing that there is space for all of us uniquely to be here and express in a beautiful way, because there is space for us. People, I mean, they talk about all the time that there's a population problem, overpopulation, there's not enough room on our planet, and it's like, uh, if we really go with this whole dream thing, like she can morph and can fit us. And I remember I saw some image the other day about the actual shape of Earth.
Yes, I saw that too because you tweeted about it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and she was like just kind of like a,
Wonky.
yeah, more like an amoeba kind of thing. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what I've always thought. I was like, it's just not a perfect sphere. It's like there's flows here and flows there, and she can expand and contract. And I think that that is the most beautiful, just not really an analogy because it's actually true, but just idea or a remembrance of that there is always space for us, and more space can be made all the time. And each person that's here that is living and breathing, and once we kind of tune into gratitude for that, it's like then the goddess makes even more space for us to expand in and of ourselves. And I think that it's just gorgeous. All of it's just gorgeous.
Yes. And the best thing people can do is give the love that they want to receive to others and to themselves. you
Yeah.
know, like you said, that relationship with your body is so powerful, and it's not working out because I hate myself. It's working out because I love myself and I want to be stronger. It's I don't
Yeah.
have to go do this. I get to go do this because I'm alive. It's reframing everything down to like how you simply wake up. And if you like, you're not waking up thinking about all the things you have to do that day. No, that's stressful. You know, you wake up and say, I'm grateful. You know, you think about the things that you just experienced in a dream. There's so many ways to reroute your energy to places that it actually belongs and it can actually thrive. And I think that's exactly what your work does. That's exactly what I love all of your Twitter. I think your discourse on Twitter is so powerful because you say things very, very plainly for people to understand, like with those skits depicting ridiculous relationship things where somebody's recording because they don't want to go to Starbucks. They got all dressed up and it's like a date thing and they're mad about it. And whether it's a skit or not, the fact that all we have to do on this planet is love and be loved in return, and all people want to do is think about stipulations with love and putting conditions on love. And well, if you don't do this, then I'm going to just leave you for the next X, Y, and Z. It's harnessing that lust, it's harnessing that greed, it's harnessing all the things that make us human and turning
Hmm.
it into that gold that lives within us too. And I just think that everything that we can do for ourselves really shows up in the springtime. And that's why super grateful to have you have this conversation today. I can't wait for more conversations with you. It's like if we can have just like these powerful calls to have more women conversations and women talking about, you know, what it means to be in their divinity and what it means to be in their sacred feminine and what it looks like to have a man protecting us, doing the right things. You know, maybe we can show that it's okay to have these not traditional roles because I don't like putting trad wife labels onto anything these days. I'm like, look, I live in the burbs, okay? I can't
Yeah.
just go and farm my acreage and just wear cotton little dresses everywhere. I want to. I'm
Hmm.
slowly making the changes, but it's like our roles on this lifetime are simple. It's the Cherokee proverb, you know, a man's highest calling is to protect women, and a woman's highest calling is to awaken the soul of a man, and our lowest calling of men is to force their way into a woman's life, and the lowest calling of women is to walk around seducing all these men with no reason. And you see it a lot in culture. I just got goosebumps all over, so it's fine.
Oh,
You know, you see it in culture all over the place, just with the amount of hypersexuality is out there. But you can be sexual and feminine and strong and protected, and you see these women that are beautiful posting themselves on the internet and sharing their beauty with people. You said it multiple times. Beauty is going to save everything. And if we could just
honestly,
appreciate the beauty, and beauty is found everywhere, in everyone, in every face.
yeah, totally agree. And I think we are making something beautiful.
Yes. I love this so much. Thank
And
you so
thank
much for
you
joining me.
for having me.
Of
I really
course.
appreciate this. I appreciate us connecting and just having these conversations. I would love to have more. I also would like to say I'm going to do a guided meditation for the March equinox, and it'll be posted probably, I would say the 19th.
Yeah.
I'll record it before, but the 19th sounds good. Or if I can get it up on the 20th, but I'm got a lot going on that day.
Yeah,
Uh,
you do. No big deal.
just flying away, flying
That's
away
free as a bird. That's how, but that's the beauty. You're spending your equinox as you should. And it's like on the go. What
in
else
the
does
air.
Sagittarius do? They're on the move, baby. You can't slow them down.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you.